Every planet has something to hide. Buried treasure worth hundreds of trillions, lost to the eons of time. But what is even out there? And if we got there to see it, what could we do with it? And if we sold it, how much would it be worth? Well, grab a shovel because today we're answering what if you mined every planet in the solar system. Oh yeah, the first planet you'd want to mine is Mars. If you're looking to build an armada of space miners, well, you hit the jackpot. And you're gonna need an armada. Mining every planet yourself sounds heroic, but not if you plan to finish before the end of the universe. So, first mission, expand your fleet. But, well, that's not the simplest thing to do if you've never spaced mined anything before. So, why don't we take it back a step? Okay, it's not a planet, but the moon is critical to humanity's expansion into the solar system and to your mining expedition. Yeah, you plan on getting filthy, stinking rich, but first, you'd need metals, fuel, water, power, and a base of operations. Now, this may sound like sci-fi, but we just did a video about NASA building an entire moon base in the early 2030s as part of the Artemis missions. And mining is part of the equation. Now, fortunately, mining on the moon would be easy. You could keep your blasting caps packed because the blasting's done. The moon's been pulverized by meteorites for billions of years, so it's covered in dusty regolith, as deep as a house. Regolith is mining goodness. You'd basically hoover it up and dump it into your smelter. And lunar soil is full of critical elements: oxygen, silica, aluminum, and iron, even titanium. That's spaceship building gold and breathing gold. You'd cook it down to metals and glass and start manufacturing your first spaceborne ships. In the poles, water exists deep in craters that have never seen the light of the sun. Not much. The inner planets are really dry, something you need to figure out eventually. But soon, you'd have built a few ships, established space stations in lunar orbit, and be ready to rock your first planet. You'd be on your way to... Now, before we get to Mars... Okay, Mars. We're going to Mars. Look, after Earth, Mars was always going to be the first planet we mined, because it'll be the first planet we make our second home. One of NASA's reasons for the Artemis missions is to pilot the technology to make life possible on Mars. Also, that Elon fellow seems hell-bent on being buried on the red planet, or something like that. But you wouldn't want to settle down on Mars. You'd want to mine the place. Now, fortunately, like the moon, it's covered in dust, red iron oxide dust, or as you call it, red gold. Yeah, it's your first real score in the solar system. And congratulations, you just lost everything. Yeah, someone intercepted your messages and diverted your ships. How? Well, you never set up encryption, so every message you sent was free for anyone to mine. It's called a man-in-the-middle attack, and it happens all the time. Say you're trying to watch your favorite streaming platform in a different country, or quickly check your bank details while you're at a coffee shop's public Wi-Fi. Now, unfortunately, you're geo-blocked from streaming, and now your browsing data is out on display. That is, unless you shield yourself with a VPN, like today's sponsor, Proton VPN. What sets Proton VPN apart is its foundation. It was built by the same CERN scientists behind Proton Mail, and that shows in how it's designed. Unlike VPNs that just claim no logs, well, Proton backs it up with an independently audited no logs policy and Swiss jurisdiction, one of the strictest privacy frameworks in the world. Its apps are also fully open source, so anyone can verify that the code does exactly what it says. a level of transparency few competitors match. And enabling Proton VPN is fast. Seriously, a few taps and your presence online is encrypted. So if someone slips into the middle, all they mine is noise. And because Proton routes your traffic through one of its 20,000 servers across 148 countries, any geo-blocked content is instantly unlocked and ready to stream. Enjoy the internet the way it should be, free from observation. Visit protonvpn.com/whatif and get up to 70% off your VPN subscription. Links in the description. Okay, so congratulations. After you secure your fleet, you can get back to mining again. In any environment, be it the moon or Mars. Come to think of it, Mars would be kind of similar to the moon, mining-wise. Lots of easy surface pickings to dig up, load in the back of a rover, and drop into a smelter. You can literally smell the progress. You shouldn't, though, because toxic vapors and all. So lots of silica, oxygen, iron, and aluminum. All kinds of metal and glass for building. And similar to the moon, there'd be some water. But not much, and that would be an issue when you want to start doing any serious mining. Remember when I said drilling in space is hard? Well, that's because when you drill into rock, you need a lubricant to keep that drill bit cool and flush the cuttings, which is usually water, or muddy water, drill mud. And if you're using water in a drill hole to lubricate it or to pump other liquids, and then you hit a fracture, you could lose millions of liters of water in a single well, in a single day. Happens all the time on Earth. Now, on this planet, we got a lot of water, but on Mars or the moon, you couldn't afford to lose any water on any day. Water isn't just for drinking, it's also critical for hydrogen rocket fuel, which is in real short supply. For now, you'd have to be stingy with fuel. That would be the grand trick of mining our solar system. Within the inner planets, there's so much rock and ore under the surface, just waiting to be mined, but there's no easy water to drill it. All that easily accessible water and ice? Well, it's on the outer planets. But don't worry, you'll visit those soon enough as well. So, on Mars, you'd go back to the old ways of mining. Smash your way in. Cable tools. Before modern drilling methods for thousands of years, miners used a simple method of cables and drill bits, sort of like an evolved pickaxe. You hit the rock, smash it, clear the cuttings. Now, that wouldn't work as well as it does on Earth because, well, the gravity is a third of Earth's. But if you didn't have much water and you couldn't drill, hammer, baby. So, you'd start mining, set up a base on Mars, and then look further afield. Now, the only other inner planets are Mercury and Venus, and yeah, they're challenging. So, you have the building blocks for some ship exoskeletons, but how do you power them? Well, you're going to... Okay, Mercury would be a dangerous place to work, but there'd be real mining opportunity here. Mostly because no one else would want to try it. It's way too close to this thing. Mercury is a cooked rock up to 430 degrees Celsius. That's 800 degrees Fahrenheit. That's during the day, and then it goes to minus 180 degrees Celsius, minus 290 Fahrenheit at night. Now, getting mining staff to sign up for this gig is going to be challenging. It's not just the heat and the extreme cold that make drilling impossible. There are also magnetic tornadoes that send solar wind plasma streaking across the surface of the planet. But you need to upgrade your fleet's nuclear power and batteries, and the critical mineral for that, graphite, is all over Mercury. Also, forsterite, which is loaded with magnesium. Now, you're an opportunist, and where some miners would see barbecued employees, you see a chance to build a solar-powered laser cutter, carving chunks out of Mercury's surface in the temperate Terminator zone. You'd also see solar shields and robot-powered solar smelters capable of turning Mercury's ore into pure aluminum, oxygen, sweet, sweet magnesium, before firing it back toward your orbiting lunar and Martian bases. Now, you want to scale up. Well, you need a ton of metal, specifically 4.9 sextillion tons of it. So, where do you head to next? Well, it's time to set up your operation in the clouds of... Okay, Venus would be a nightmare to mine. Imagine doing deep-sea mining a kilometer underwater, but it's 467 degrees Celsius. That's 872 degrees Fahrenheit. And not to mention the water is sulfuric acid. But mining Venus would be too tempting not to try. But on its surface, it's potentially 20% iron oxide. And if you went deeper, the core is potentially 80% metallic iron. Could you theoretically create a Dyson sphere if you could convert all the iron on Venus into usable material? Well, the answer is yes, and we'll get to that at the end of the video. There are also concentrations of thorium and uranium. Essentially, this is like Earth with no people, so you'd be free to pillage it. First, you'd build zeppelins and launch probes down to the surface in an attempt to set up mining bases. But they wouldn't last much longer than the first Russian probes did back in the 1970s. They'd melt. Operating in the Venusian environment would be a disaster. Now, similar to Earth, there's so much good material just under the surface. But unlike Earth, it's an absolutely Goliath undertaking to even get to the surface, let alone mine there. Now, after you've lost a couple dozen robots and drones to the crushing, lead-melting acid bath, you decide to defer future operations, aka forget it. The solar system is a big place, and nearby would be one of the most enticing prospects in it. Again, yes, this is not a planet, but you can't talk about mining in space without talking about mining asteroids. And this stretch between Mars and Jupiter, full of protoplanet cores. This is where the money's at. The asteroid belt doesn't contain that much mass, less than the moon. Formed around the same time as the planets, it never balled up into a planet because of Jupiter's immense gravity. But it's a gold mine, and in some cases, literally. You'd have your eye on the asteroid Psyche, just 280 kilometers across. Researchers estimate it's between 30 to 60% metal, mostly nickel and iron. A lead NASA scientist estimated that much iron could be worth $10 quintillion. That's a 10 with 18 zeros after it. For comparison, the world's global annual economy is approximately $125 trillion. So that one asteroid alone is worth 80,000 times Earth's yearly economy. Also, M-type asteroids like Psyche often contain heavy deposits of platinum group metals, along with actual gold, which, last I checked, was worth way more than iron. If you could tow it back to Earth, safely land it, and sell it, that is. But getting stuff back to Earth? That's crazy expensive. The first retrieval mission to an asteroid cost hundreds of millions of dollars to collect exactly 122 grams of asteroid. That's like a quarter pounder, with no cheese. NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission took a full 7 years, launching in 2016, landing on the asteroid Bennu, and returning home in 2023. Yeah, 7 years for a quarter pounder. Not even supersized. So your plan? Well, you'd punch small holes into the asteroids, pack them full of explosives, and blast off chunks of rock and metal. Steer them back to your orbital smelters that are circling Mars, and use all that metal to build a bigger fleet. Now, this would have to be all highly automated at this point. The hours to move and process these items are weeks to months, so you'd need to invest the first chunk of metal into a full suite of robots and drones, because we flesh bags don't fare so well in some of space's most extreme environments. But you've hit a limit. There's not much more you can do with your primitive tools. You don't have enough fuel anymore on the inner planets to support your fleet's needs, and no water to efficiently drill on the inner planets. But that's all about to change with... Before you tackled mining the outer planets, you needed to establish mining bases, orbital smelters, and asteroid-blasting ships in the inner planets. But your supply network would stretch from Mercury to the Asteroid Belt, loaded with metal. But you'd need gas and liquid to drill deep, and you're tired of scraping in the dirt for rocket fuel. So it'd be time to stretch your supply line to the outer planets. Mining a gas planet? Okay, it'd be weird. It's mostly hydrogen and helium. If you tried to fly down toward the core, the pressure would crush the hull of any mining vessel. But you'd be able to skim as much gas as you wanted from Jupiter's upper atmosphere using big tanks and balloons, while avoiding as much of Jupiter's radiation as you could. This, again, would be robot territory. And then you'd turn to something more valuable: Jupiter's 101 moons. Yeah, Europa in particular is something you'd want to mine because, well, it's a gold mine, or rather a water mine in a parched universe. Ganymede, the largest moon in the solar system, would be attractive too. It's covered in water ice, so you could fill your tanks with as much water as you wanted. Well, as soon as you figure out how to drill through the 150-kilometer thick ice shell. But once you did, you're free to start shipping it back to Mars and the Moon. This water line is absolutely key to your future mining of the solar system. Once you get that water line flowing, well, then you could start drilling deep on the rocky inner planets. And you'd have rocket fuel for days. Actually, way more than days. Multiple consecutive lifetimes, like trillions of lifetimes. Yeah, Jupiter is huge. If it had formed with only 13 times more mass, well, it would have ignited into a brown dwarf star. And then this would have been a binary star system. Now, all of Jupiter's moons have something interesting on them. So set your von Neumann probes on a course to colonize Jupiter's halo, and it's time to move deeper to... Saturn presents prospects similar to Jupiter, a gassy planet, frozen moons, and you need more propellant to move your ships. It'd be easier to keep your human crew alive here because, well, it wouldn't be flooded with Jupiter's lethal radiation. So you'd expand your human operations around Saturn, harvesting its gases. The rings are especially interesting because they're mostly made up of ice. So just open up your ship's hull and gobble it up, ready for your pina coladas. Saturn's moons are loaded with rocket propellant and life support materials. Enceladus, for example, sprays water directly out of surface geysers. It's a space water tap. And Titan is covered in volatiles, seas of methane and ethane. A space gas station. Mining here would be less about blasting and more about siphoning up all the available fuel and liquid and shipping it back to the inner planets. Drop a hose from space and drink that methane milkshake up. I drink your milkshake. On the return trip, they'd bring more metal aboard more ships. And now you've got a system going where no ship is ever empty. You're building ships, tapping new wells faster now than you used to, and your rate of expansion is picking up speed too. Building ships, robots are great outcomes for finding metal, but life is harder to support. You're a little bit far now from the green pastures of Earth. To solve that problem, well, you need to visit... Okay, by this point, you'd have established a mining outfit in the inner planets that could produce all the metals and materials needed to build almost any structure. And you'd be refining untold gases and volatiles from the gas giants. Uranus and Neptune, far from your core operation, frankly would be a pain in the butt to mine. There's no solid surface. They're brutally cold, and there's so much ice to deal with, which shreds a spaceship in a way pure gas giants can't. But those moons, like Umbriel and Triton, are full of water, frozen carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. Carbon dioxide and nitrogen are pretty interesting because they're great for growing plants and people. So you'd set up a small operation to harvest fuel for any explorers focused on leaving the star system, and you'd set up around Neptune to do some speculative deep diving work that could result in the ultimate payoff. Set up some O'Neill cylinders, gigantic megastructures made to mimic Earth. Fill them with processed dirt and fertilizers, irrigation systems, and automated harvesting robots. This is your first mission, scraping your way into the next Kardashev level. You see, you need to farm a civilization's worth of food, so this structure needs to be the size of a moon. Now, so far, financing your expansion has been trivial, considering how much riches you've collected so far. But if you ever run into hard times, the ace up your sleeve? Deep in the heart of Neptune, it's raining diamonds. There are iceberg-sized diamonds down there. Forget about the crushing pressure, wind, and lightning. Finding one diamond the size of an Applebee's? That's a nice little nest egg. But at the scale you operate now, money is completely pointless. You have so much of it that the numbers aren't even understandable. Remember the Psyche asteroid worth $10 quintillion? That's just one of potentially 2 million asteroids as big or bigger than that. So mining the asteroid belt alone would make you $10 sextillion. And the asteroid belt, by mass, is only 0.0000086% of the solar system, not even including the sun. There's not enough money in the solar system to buy your resources from you anymore. So you switch your focus to your big philanthropic gesture to humanity. You'd use all the metals and fuel and the octododecaheptanonillions of dollars you made mining the solar system to fund the creation of a metallic Dyson sphere that captures the energy of the sun. A Dyson sphere is an object built around the sun, completely enclosing it and converting 100% of its radiation to energy. Then you give that near infinite energy to the people of Earth and Mars and the Venusians and the Jupiterians. We talked about strip mining Venus to find the materials for this project, but how much would that actually cover? Half the sun? Quarter? No. If you mined Venus for all it's worth and converted it to sheet metal, well, you could completely encase the sun with a wall 30 meters thick. You'd leave the next generation of explorers the juice to explore and mine all the spots you skipped. Asteroids like Ceres and Vesta, moons like Callisto and Triton. They'd be able to expand humanity's operations beyond the solar system. Head out to Pluto or Orcus and into the Kuiper Belt. We know Planet Nine's out there somewhere, and you'd empower them to find it. You didn't just want to topple Musk and Bezos for the Forbes list. You wanted to outpace Buffett and Mackenzie Scott in giving back. You'd become the most generous person ever. So you'd magnanimously gift humanity with Kardashev Type 2 civilization power. I mean, you'd also magnanimously carve your face into one of the moons to go with it, but wouldn't we all? Now, mining has given you a terrific legacy, but stopping now would be a shame. So you set yourself a new goal to stay inspired, like expanding humanity to a Type 3 civilization. But that's a story for another What If.